the network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
Welcome to ResiWeek. This is your weekly wrap-up of all the latest news and stories for the residential AV industry. I'm your host, Matt D. Scott for AVNation.tv. Today, I'm pleased to be joined by my good friend, Rick Johnson. Rick, how are you today?
I'm terrific. How are you doing, Matt?
I'm doing great. If you don't know Rick, you definitely need to. He is an awesome guy. I met him first through Cedia Tweeps, right?
That's correct.
Excellent. He is the chief technologist at Right at Home Technologies. It's his first time, so we're going to be really nice. Or I'm going to be really nice.
You should be.
I'm always nice. I'm Canadian. And last but not least, we've got Tim Albright. He's the founder of AVNation.tv. He's going to be adding his esteemed commentary to the show. Esteemed.
I like that.
Yeah, I thought so. Let's jump right in. Rick, I'm going to go directly to you. You wrote a follow-up article about a week after Cedia posted it on Facebook, and it wasn't your normal follow-up article. Give us a little background about, kind of what you were talking about, and why it meant so much for you to write that in that way.
Well, as you know, part of the Cedia Tweet program is to write a couple of blog posts before the show to get people excited about coming, your followers and whatnot. And during that time, I'd written about 3 or 4 different items we were going to look for as far as a company on the show floor.
Right.
And throughout the show, my son Benjamin and I went throughout, I think, about 100% of the show this year, and looked for very specific answers to things. But on the last day of the show, kind of wrapping things up, we had stopped at the Cedia's main booth to do some reviews with Dave Chick and Dave Pedigo about some items we had talked about earlier in the day. I'm also on a technology committee with Cedia and CTA, so that was part of the reason we were there. And I had been looking to say hi to all the different Cedia tweets throughout the week, and I hadn't met this one young lady. She was part of the package, and she had to leave because of work things. And behold, she strolled into the booth, and we got introduced. And with conversation, one of the things she says, she's a real bubbly person and a really terrific person, by the way. But she asked me, said, "What just wowed you at the show?" And I told her that I wasn't really wowed with anything at the show. And she didn't take that really well. And about an hour later, she tweeted out, "Right at Home Tech, how could you be a Cedia tweep if you're not really excited about anything on the show floor?" And by that time, my son Benjamin and I were on the train back to the airport trying to catch our flight. And I tweeted back a series of 3 tweets trying to explain to her where my thought process was and why I answered her that way and how I actually felt about the show. And from that point, I started reading listening to the reviews. Different people wrote about what they saw at the show, both the commercial ones, the Resi Systems, C Pro stuff, and then some of the extra blog posts that some of our Cedia Tweet people put out. And finally, I decided that I needed to address what I saw as a problem that we had at the show. In the beginning of my tweet, I kind of addressed just what I talked about just now. Mm-hmm. Then I mentioned a little about what how I'd responded to the things on my blog post, which I don't know if you want to go into those or not. But the bottom line is that as a Cedia tweet, my fiduciary duty on that job was to tweet and blog about things that were interested to me and my followers to entice them to come to the show. Mm-hmm. Part of that is our business model has changed. We've changed from being a traditional AV electronics installer to being a very specific practice in aging in place. we build our entire business now around, that's our most of our focus. We haven't given up any of our older clients, but that's our focus, is the aging in place market. And the things I'm looking for in that market, none of my control people, and for the most part, none of the people on the show floor had what I was looking for. Even in the shading area, we got a lot of pushback from the shading manufacturers when we ask about bottom-up shades versus top-down shades.
Right.
And dealing with our particular client base, which is about 60% is Alzheimer's or early onset dementia patients, natural sunlight is very important to them. But as you follow the sun throughout the day, the sun is bright, hot, and glaring when it's up high, but you want the light to come in. So you want the shades to be up tall to block that glare out to bring it in. But as the sun falls, you want to follow the sun with the shade, continue to block the glare, but allow the natural light to flow over the top of it. Because it's been found that Alzheimer's patients and dementia patients have a less anger triggers. They get less aggressive the more sunlight that their body absorbs throughout the day.
Wow.
So that's what we were looking for in that. And we got a lot of pushback from the shade manufacturers that, well, that's just not the traditional way of looking at things.
Well, and it's, I think the whole of your post brought about a really important part, which is that it's not so much that, if I can kind of paraphrase your words a little bit,
Sure, go ahead.
It's not so much that there wasn't cool stuff on the market and cool stuff being displayed and really, amazing things happening at the show, but it's that you, for your company, you've done what we've been hearing people talk about for years, as far as we need to get away from just being, geeks and techs who get all excited over stuff, and we need to build sustainable businesses, which is what you've done. You found a vertical that's working for you. And when you got to the show, you found that a lot of the solutions that you were looking for, nobody really had that. So yeah, can you get excited about the show and the cool tech? Sure. But not when you can't find things that make you money.
Yeah. So we were looking for, really what we're looking for is either RFID readers in pieces or Bluetooth chips that we could use to develop a geofencing product to monitor the movement of these individuals.
Right.
And that was now we've seen some stuff at CES, but it's all pie in the sky stuff yet. Some of the manufacturers are talking 5, 6, 7 years down the road. Even though RFID is available now, I have RFID chips now. But I can't find a reliable reader that'll talk to my control system.
Right.
That's the rub. So now instead of putting a main control system in, you have to put in multiple systems to do what you should be able to do with just one master system. Anyway, but that's but the gist of my post is that just as you stated, we look at the show as trying to make our business more profitable or to expand some of the profit areas that we have. Mm-hmm. And I did see some really awesome things at the show that most of my clients would not be interested in. We saw that French speaker manufacturer there in the upper hall that I can't think of the name of them right now, but the little white speaker with a round disc on it. Looked like a Star Wars oblique.
Oh, I know who you mean.
And went into their sound room and listened to, of course, I'm an opera fan. I'm not into heavy metal as much as everybody else, but I love opera. And they brought up a couple of opera renditions through their file, and it was just gorgeous in that room. One speaker filling the entire space.
Yep.
But at $14,000, not many of my clients are going to put a room full of those in. So,
well, and that's always been the difference, and something that I've noticed for years is, especially when something that we've had to do as Stadia Tweeps is talk about how to get new people into the show and stuff like that. And I always have to, when I'm writing about it, I always have to remind people that yes, there's a bunch of really, really cool stuff you can see. You can spend a ton of time in audio demo rooms and stuff like that, but you need to find the stuff that makes you money. You need to find the stuff that hits your clients. And sometimes I feel that gets overlooked because we're all such geeks. But talking about something that shouldn't be overlooked, let's swing over to an article from Residential Systems, and this is about the Savant founder and chairman Robert Madonna is returning as the CEO. He's taking the reins back after I think the last 2 years have been run by the outgoing CEO William Lynch, and this is kind of I don't know if it's so much a big deal, but one of the biggest things he said is that they're looking forward to obviously developing new products, but more specifically, continuing to grow the Savant brand. Rick, do you see this as something that's significantly going to help Savant continue to grow, or is this just another? Obviously it's a great feel-good story that he's coming back. But do you see this as something that's really going to help propel Savant?
Well, from my perspective, I think it's a great thing. He always had a very strong vision of where he wanted the company to go. He had a strong vision on the products he was trying to introduce or wanted to introduce. And now that he's back, I'm hoping that we're going to see some of those things he talked about a couple of years ago actually start to grow again versus what Savant has been for the last 2 or 3 years, which I believe is kind of stagnant. It's just kind of leveled off, resting on their laurels. That's my opinion of the piece. I'm really happy to see him back in that position, and I'm looking forward to seeing how he's gonna reinvigorate his staff from his perspective.
Well, Tim, they made a big splash last year with some of their native support of a couple cable boxes and Apple and Sonos and stuff like that. Does this bode well for that whole side, plus the fact that they've got a growing retail channel through specifically Magnolia?
Well, yeah, and to Rick's point, Mr. Madonna had said in the past he had a specific idea. You almost get the idea that the outgoing CEO didn't exactly jive with the original CEO and the founders' vision of where he saw Savant going. I think it's a good sign that at least for Savant and for the company, that he's back, and that the original visionary, I guess, is back at the helm and able to direct things. I think the Magnolia thing is interesting. Anytime you have a partnership with a retail chain, it can go both ways. It can either be really great for you or really, really bad, depending. Honestly, it depends on how your existing client base takes it, right? If you've got existing integrators who depend on you and get you through certain channel, integrators typically and historically aren't in a big favor of their clientele being able to walk down the street and pick up similar products by the same name. So that'll be kind of interesting to see how that grows.
Yes, definitely it will. I think the Best Buy side of it changes because you can only get a certain product or a certain number of products there, and it is some of their stuff that's not as, shall we say, integrator dependent. But it'll be an interesting switch to see what he does in the first couple of months. But moving on to something that's potentially scary. CE Pro, like that segue?
Very nice.
That was my fantastic segues. CE Pro and our good friend Julie Jacobson, who is she always writes fantastic, thought-provoking pieces, which I always appreciate. She wrote this, and I caught this first on Facebook and immediately had to read it while on the road this week. She wrote an article called "The DIY Trend is Starting to Get Scary, and It's Not All About Price." Through this article, she kind of starts it off talking about a past article she wrote about buying a TV from Amazon, and really use that to call out the fact that all this new DIY product that is flooding the market isn't, dramatically going to per se affect the integrators, but it is still scary because there's so many products and so many solutions that are just easily available for the our clientele and for the mass consumers. Her kind of biggest point was that we need to continue to find ways to deal with the new realities of people liking, honestly, the simplistic shopping experience of buying on Amazon or wherever and buying these DIY products that for the most part they can integrate themselves. Now, Rick, as kind of we started off, we know that your company is primarily moving towards aging in place and things like that. Do you, for yourself, do you see DIY at all? And two, are there places where you're using essentially DIY products because they're so simple and they just fit the bill?
So the answer is yes and no. Yes, I'm seeing it.
Mm-hmm.
Our client, is the majority of our clients are mid baby boomers. They're used to going to the big box stores or the Best Buys, and they see all this easily attached stuff. What used to get me all hepped up was, why the hell would I want to buy a light bulb? I can control one single light bulb. I have 30 of them down the aisle. I can turn on this light bulb and I can change it from blue to green to orange. In fact, I wrote a response to Julie's article about that by saying, who the hell cares about a yellow light bulb? I mean, I don't want one blue light bulb in the middle of the hallway. It just doesn't make sense to me. But my clients seem to be intrigued by this. People can change the colors of their lights and change the atmosphere of the room with an app. Well, I don't want to get involved in that. So, and if they want to buy that, great. It doesn't affect the great majority of the stuff that we're doing. But run that forward now a few years, and now we've got, which was big at the show, really big at the show, the Echo. Mm-hmm. And the Echo, people start thinking voice stuff, and they can just go online and buy this thing for less than $200. Bring it home, plug it in, and it works. It tells you the weather. It tells you this. If you've got the right light switches and the right radio and whatever, you can just tell it to do whatever you want it to do. That is scary, and I think the fact that it's becoming very popular is something that we all need to start looking at as far as our business model. How are we going to address this? Or no yelling on the screen? Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, not you.
There's just no way around this type of product there. And look at we haven't seen yet what Apple's going to do next, right? But there's so much that could be done with their HomeKit and a device that's in this, I'll use the word skunkworks of their organization that they've been talking about, hadn't come out yet. So there's a lot of things coming that we're going to have to address one way or the other.
That's definitely true. Tim, is this Julie picking on integrators? Is this Julie not supporting the channel?
No, I don't think so.
Is it? Well, because every time somebody writes an article about DIY products, and if you would all seem to support them, we seem to just see a massive, backs raised from the integrator channel, all concerned that we're trying to kill their businesses. What is DIY as scary as we try to make it out to be?
No. Just to flat out answer your question, no. And I go back to a conversation I had with Mitch Klein, who is the head of Z-Wave Alliance media this year. He said a phrase to me that I totally give him credit for, but I'm totally going to steal. Don't know if he came up with it or not, but he's the first person I heard it from. And it is the idea of do it with me. He said there are 3 segments now in this industry. There is do it for me. I'm going to call Rick up and I need XYZ done. There is do it yourself, right? I'm going to buy stuff on Amazon and I'm going to slap it in myself. And then there's do it with me. And do it with me, according to Mitch, and I tend to agree with him on this, has the potential to be the biggest moneymaker and the biggest segment where integrators can shine that we've seen in a long time. And here's the reason why. You're going to have folks who, yes, they get technology, they're comfortable with it. At this point, the smartphone market, and I'm going to say smartphone market, is roughly about 10, 11 years old. So folks have been living with these smart, wonderful little devices in our hands, mini computers that can do this, that, and the other. So the clients are more comfortable with it now. So yeah, I can buy a camera, I can buy an Echo, I can maybe even I can install a lock myself. But what happens when I get to the point where I can't? When the DIY thing that I thought was all DIY is to the point where it's beyond my expertise. That's where Do It With Me comes into play. However you monetize that is between you and the client. It can be anything from a monthly service to a yearly contract to an ad hoc basis. But you foster a relationship with your client who is a little bit more adept than the average person, or maybe more adept in general. And yeah, they're going to buy stuff that they're going to try to put in themselves. But when they get to that point, they understand that you're always going to be there at a phone call or an email to come and help them out and walk them through. And that right there is the service part that folks have been kind of shouting from the rooftops for a couple of years that as integrators you guys get to do. You don't have to sell it. You support it with your knowledge and with the experience that you have by helping them along and helping them. Honestly, the bottom line is you're helping them accomplish something they want to do anyway, which is evident by the fact that they went out and bought this thing on their own.
Yeah.
So Matt, before you go, remember when Nest became popular?
I do.
Okay. So Nest started out as a do-it-yourself product.
Yep.
Then they started having problems with guys installing thermostats in their house, didn't know what the white wire and the yellow wire was for, right? So they started the Nest Pro piece, where the client goes into the big box store and buys the Nest device, take it home. They can go back online and now find a whole list of guys local to them that'll come and install it at a set price already in place. We're a Nest Pro dealer, and we've done 20 or 30 installations in a 50 square mile radius around our main office.
Well, and the best thing about things like that, and it reminds me of a conversation I had with Richard Fregosa a couple of years ago, and it was you need to become as an integrator, as a company, you need to become the expert. You need to become that go-to person that your clients are looking for. So it doesn't matter if what they buy or where they buy it. If they have a question about it, they're going to come to you. And that's essentially what the Nest Pro program was about, was connecting, integrators and people that know how to use this stuff and connecting them with clients so that clients aren't left out in the dust trying to connect something.
Well, even more than that, I mean, and not more than that, but also on that same vein, you have the Amazon Pro or the Amazon integrator section, right? Where if I go online and I buy a TV and a mount, Amazon's going to give me an option that says, "Hey, would you like this installed?"
Yep.
Right. It's not perfect. I have no idea. I need to talk to a couple guys. There's a couple guys here in St. Louis that are actually a part of this program to see how it works for them, both from a monetary standpoint as well.
Right.
Yeah.
It's low hanging fruit. It's not that job that's going to make your year, but it's also something that if it's something that you're interested in participating in, these types of programs, they can be a source of fairly steady income without anything. If you're a Nest Pro dealer, you don't have to do anything extra to utilize Nest's marketing, right? All of their marketing, all of that stuff for local service pops up. All you had to do was go up to the website, go through their training, fill out a couple forms, and bingo, you're a Nest Pro dealer. And you're that guy who's going to get potentially that call.
But the biggest part about the whole thing, and I think what Tim was trying to state is that once you get in the door and you do that first installation, we've got callbacks for a lot of other things because of that, like the lock set, which you said you might not be able to do.
Yeah,
they decided they want to go to electronic locks, and they hey, you're going about electronic locks. You come back and you talk about the lock set. So there's a lot of ways you can market this program. I'm not as much afraid of do it yourself, but I do like Mitch's comment of do it with me. There's a whole segment of people that are DIYers that are they're going to be that group. And then there's that next level of people that like the product, might buy the product, and then get it home and open the box and say, ooh, there's a lot more here than I thought.
Well, and the best part about all these types of solutions is, if somebody buys something DIY off the shelf, whether it be Sonos, whether it be a Amazon Echo, whether it doesn't matter what it is.
Right.
If they buy it and they take it home and they plug it in and it works, great. They're probably not going to call you because they made it work.
Right.
But they probably weren't going to call you anyways. They were never your client. Whereas when you get somebody who goes and buys something, takes it home and goes, man, yeah, I got 2 of the plays working, but I can't get the third one to work. Let me call somebody. They get on the phone and they call whoever is, their local Sonos guy. And that integrator comes out and goes, oh, it's a Wi-Fi problem or whatever it is. And they fix that problem for you. The next time that client looks to do something, either they're going to repeat that process where they buy it, get it home and go, they're a little harder than I thought. And they're going to call you up again, or they're going to go, you know what? Let me just call Rick. Say, hey, Rick, I want to buy this next piece. Can I get this piece? Can you sell it to me? Can I buy it myself? And you guys come in and put it in. And what did you have to do for that sale? Nothing. You literally had to show up one time and make it work.
Mm-hmm.
And provide really great service in the meantime, right?
Yes,
it's not that is part of the process too.
Oh, completely. You have to, but again, that's what we're hoping people are doing anyways. We're hoping integrators are, and yes. We've all been in this business long enough. We know not everybody does that.
Why I wanted to say it.
But if you're someone who can be, prove trustworthy, prove effective, and not be, more than what they were expecting, you can make a client for life. We did a small project that was referred to us on Facebook a couple of months ago. And this doesn't happen very often, which is why I'm mentioning it. And it's by no means to toot our own horn, but it was a very simple, take a TV down, replace an HDMI, and hook up a little system. So sent some guys over. We did it quick, did it fast, got everything working, and they loved it. So what do I get back when they pay their bill? I get a copy of the check and an invoice and all that good stuff with them paying their bill. But I also got a note of, we talked to 3 other integrators about this. 2 of them didn't call us back. One of us came out and was ridiculously expensive. And we're already at a price premium, so they must have been insane. And you guys came out, you did it on time, you did it under budget, and my wife can use it. I will hire you guys for anything we ever do. Wow. I'll recommend you to everybody. And again, I'm not saying that to my own horn, but as soon as we as integrators prove that we know what we're doing and that we can solve clients' problems, they're going to hire us, whether it's for DIY or Crestron or anything in between. People are usually quite happy to pay for something to get it done easily for them. And as long as we can supply that, they're going to do it.
But the key to that whole thing is that you responded, you did it right, it worked, and you didn't gouge them out the door.
No, now I'm thinking I could have just a little bit.
Stop that.
I'm
kidding. I bet you could talk to about 90% of the long-term integrators. They tell you the same story.
Oh, completely. It's a big thing. Tim, do we have time for one more, 2 more?
One more, quickly.
One more. Which one do you want?
Oh, let's do Sonos.
Okay, we'll do Sonos. This comes to us from Macworld, one of the sites that I visit all the time because I'm a Mac guy. So what we do. Sonos is coming to the Apple Store. What does this mean for Beats? First of all, it means that people can finally buy decent speakers in an Apple Store. And hopefully they'll hire people. Well, sorry, I shouldn't say decent. Because they do sell some decent stuff. But they also sell a bunch of consumer junk. Anyways, I digress. One of the cool things is for US clients, if you go in and you buy a Sonos product at their store, you get a gift card for a free 3-month trial of Apple Music, which is fancy if you're an Apple Music kind of person. But the bigger thing is, does this mean anything for Beats, which Apple bought a year and a half ago, give or take? Does this mean anything about that, or do we even care, Rick?
Well, number one, I'm a Mac guy too, and I also visit the site quite often. I think it's a win for both. It gets the Sonos product into another outlet that is highly viewed, and it also gets people that are looking at Sonos can also look at the consumer grade Beats product. But if you remember what Apple said a year ago, or not a year, 6 months ago, that they were starting to evolve some of the Beat product into a higher level, and this is going to help push that narrative that direction, I think.
Well, and let's keep in mind, this is a really good partnership. If you look at Apple marketing and Sonos marketing, it's not the same, but it's in the same vein.
Well, they work in this. They try to work in the same spaces
Completely.
They're looking for that type of a client. It's just a win. As I said, I think it's a win for both.
I agree, and I know Beats does make some little speakers and stuff like that, but they're primarily a headphone company. So as much as this article,
I would ask you, what does the new iPhone 7 do for versus Sonos?
Oh, it's awesome. Well, no, again, for Sonos, it's fantastic because people now have to listen to stuff through their home system. They can't put on their headphones.
Can't use their headphones anymore.
Not anymore. Tim, does this matter to the integrators at all?
It matters to them because it's one more place where folks can get introduced to, again, go back to our last story, to that whole do it with me product line, right? You've got, and the story goes on to talk about the other partnerships that Apple has, Harman Kardon, Bose, other speaker manufacturers, Bang & Olufsen. You can purchase those incredibly sounding speakers through Apple stores. So it's a place where some of your clients are already going, and they're getting introduced, like Rick said, to these higher quality speakers. Hey, I like to have that, and goes back to our last conversation. How do I get that in my house? How do I integrate it into my larger system? I think it's just one more place for folks to get introduced to Sonos and to higher quality speakers and distributed audio.
When I read this article and saw it right off the bat, it brought two feelings to mind for me. One, I was really happy because, again, just as you said, Tim, the fact that there are more venues where people will see Sonos just makes it intrinsically easier for me to sell as a dealer. The slight, gut check I had on it at the same time was, I remember when we went through the Sonos vetting process years ago to get Sonos, and how big of a deal it was to try and pick them up, and how honestly whiny they were.
Yes, but you're not Apple.
No. I know I'm not. No, I know I'm not. But it was all about all this other stuff and how well you could promote the brand and all this other crap. And then I see, them going into just another big venue. And again, I'm excited because it puts that in front of more people. But I also see it as a bit of a sales decrease for us. We'll get the service. We will not sell as much when people can just pick it up at an Apple store, in addition to Best Buy.
And I'm going to say that you're going to probably miss out on the initial sale.
Oh yeah,
but all the add-on stuff.
Completely.
And
again, I said it was
the other end of the story. The other story that because it was so hard to get it originally, you don't have everybody and his brother also competing with you.
No, that is true.
I mean, there's other manufacturers in this same space that will sign up anybody to get the product out the door.
No, really? In our industry? You're kidding. I don't believe it.
No, I think the Sonos deal is a good deal. So, in fact, and as I told you earlier on, we're not a Sonos dealer. We sell another brand, but because of their actions, we get a lot of play on ours too.
Will they sign anyone?
No, they don't sign everyone.
Okay, just check it. Just check it. Awesome. All right, gentlemen, thank you so much for being here. Rick, where can people connect with you?
They can connect to me on Twitter at Right at Home Tech, Facebook. They can Rick Johnson on Facebook. I'm also on LinkedIn. They can call me.
Really?
At my phone, 419-230-4363. And, I'm available most ways.
Very good. Excellent. Thanks so much for being here. We had a blast.
Well, thanks for inviting me.
Not a problem. Tim, where can people find you?
Like Rick on the Twitters, TD Tim David Albright, on Twitter and LinkedIn and all that jazz.
Very good. For myself, you can find me at Matt D. Scott on Twitter and pretty much every other social platform. But more importantly, please stop by AVNation.tv. You'll find this show as well as a variety of our other shows that cover all the other verticals that we cover. When you visit the site, please make sure you stop by and take a look at our underwriters. They support us. We're extremely thankful for it. And we ask that you check it out and support them as well. That's all the time we have for this week of ResiWeek.